Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to one of my favourite Swedish craft breweries for this one. So for this review we are going to head north to Gothenburg, or Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, the craft beer capital of Sweden these days, and we're having a taste of yet another beer from Beerbliotek. So this one is actually part of their core range. They do have a core range now, whereas they never used to before. This one is number 126, the Eternal Darkness, which is an Imperial Stout coming in at 11% ABV. Now I've had a whole variety of styles of beer from these guys, New England IPAs, Belgian IPAs, black IPAs, barrel-aged barley wines and stuff like this, but as far as memory serves me, I can't recall ever having had an Imperial Stout from these guys, so I'm really curious to see how this one turns out, and it's supposed to be really quite nice, this actually. It was pretty cheap when I got it on Systembolaget as well. I'm sure I only paid about 45, maybe 50 crowns for this one. So for a Swedish Imperial Stout, that is a pretty decent price actually. So really curious, as I say, to see how this one turns out, particularly when it comes from a brewery that I've always been quite impressed with. So yeah, we'll see how we get on. So as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Beerbliotek before. No doubt I will add some more at some point in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the home page and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, pretty much constantly to be honest. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Beerbliotek then, on to my brewery notes. So this brewery, as I've mentioned to you before, are based in Gothenburg, Göteborg as you would say in Swedish, and it was founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. This is Adam Norman, who's Australian, Richard Bull, who's from New Zealand, Anders Hedlund, who is a Swede, and Daryl Denecker, who is from South Africa. So Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and Daryl and Anders were regular customers there, and they used to just kind of sit down and chat about beer, and one day they decided they were going to buy a brew kit and brew their own together. So the original brewery that they had is in the old Klippan Sugar building, which is a really nice old building very close to the old Carnegie brewery in Gothenburg, and the brew kit they have is from Brewfab in Scotland, and in their first year they produced 38 different types of beer, which is pretty impressive actually, kind of on Mikkeller levels there actually, but all their beers are brewed in very small batches, so it kind of helps them stick to the home brewing roots of very rarely brewing the same beer. So for a long time they didn't have a fixed range, if you like, and they were always brewing brand new beers, but these days they've found ones that seem to be very popular, and they have kept those on and brewed them quite regularly. This one is one of those examples. In 2015 though, they opened up a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they now have their tap room and run their main brewing operations, and the old brewery is used now for just producing sour beers, and they're also working on a barrel aging project in the new brewery at the moment, and the first beers have started to be released from that barrel aging project as well. You saw me review the Would I Lie to You a couple of videos back from these guys, and they do have a Scotch ale as well, and I would absolutely love to try that one, but I haven't seen it come through Systembolaget yet, so hopefully that's one I can have a little look at some point in the future. But the idea behind the name at Beerbliotek is apparently they wanted to brew a wide variety of beers so that customers were always learning something new about, for example, malts, hops, yeasts and things like that. So they're always experimenting at this brewery, but they said that this is supposed to just be the concept of a library of beer basically, hence the name at Beerbliotek. So yeah, interesting one, this one. So a really nice brewery, this one. They're always trying different things, and if you're interested in Swedish craft beer and you find yourself in Gothenburg, Beerbliotek is a really good place to start. Hopefully I can actually go and visit their tap room when I'm up in Gothenburg in a couple of weeks time actually. That would be really nice. So if I am, I will film one of those little out and about videos for you too. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about Beerbliotek for the moment. You can check out my other reviews. If you want to learn more about the company, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram as well. That will keep you up to date with all the latest goings on at the brewery, and you can check out the Rate Beer and Untappd pages as well to see all the different beers that they've produced. So yeah, let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. There you can see Pretty typical Beerbliotek artwork on this one. The B with the books there is their brewery symbol, which is actually pretty kind of cool. I don't know if you can describe that as being modernist. One of the little touches I always like on these Beerbliotek cans is that they say Swedish craft beer. I wish more Swedish breweries would do that actually, and I'm guessing one of the main reasons that this brewery has it is because it's foreigners that run it. I'm sure Nordic Kiwi brewers actually do that as well. They put a little Swedish flag on their beers actually. So yeah, it's interesting that. It says on the front here, the winter nights in Sweden are long, dark and cold. We created this beer to keep you company through those hours of eternal darkness. Get in touch at beerbliotek.com. Like I said, this is number 126 in their range, and it is now one of their core range, if you like. So yeah, I think they had about 7 or 8 beers in their core range when I checked out the website before, but they've actually got a good list of all the different things that they do there. But very similar in its presentation to some of the other ones. So without further ado, let's get it out and we will get on with the tasting then. There we go. One of the things I should say as well is that Beerbliotek are exporting a little bit. I have seen their beers in Scotland and England. I'm not sure where else they're exporting to. I would guess Norway and Denmark. I think maybe probably down to Germany as well. I've got a feeling I might have seen 1 or 2 of their beers when I was in Munich before. But definitely one of the Swedish craft brews that you want to check out. And I guess it's maybe fair to say that these guys are one of the more kind of established names, along with like Dugges and things like that in Gothenburg as well. So definitely a brewery that you want to check out if you get the chance. So yeah, let's have a little look at this one then. As you can see, and as you would expect from an Imperial Stout, this one has poured a really dark ebony rosewood colour. If you put the light through it, you will see that it does have a little bit of a very dark chestnutty kind of Coca-Cola coloured edge. There's about a 1/4 finger of a frothy, quite dark tan head on this one. Not the darkest tan head I've come across right enough, but it is just starting to fade away to be a very kind of thin foamy layer. It's almost right there actually. But 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones heading up towards the bottom of the head there. But overall it looks like a pretty calm beer, I have to say. So yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer when you consider that it is an Imperial Stout. So yeah, let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh yeah, that smells really nice actually. It comes across as quite a sweet Imperial Stout actually, but you can tell from just how kind of thick how it just smells very thick and brown sugary and like charred chocolate. That's the first impression you're getting of this one. The aroma of this beer is absolutely beautiful. I'm just wondering to myself now, why did I not review this beer sooner? I don't know when it was released actually through Systembolaget, but if it's number 126, I think they're up to like 300 and something in this little number system that they have. But yeah, it is pretty nice, I have to say. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy this aroma. But yeah, a lot of chocolate coming out of this one. It's actually very well balanced in terms of how the chocolate's coming out. I mean, it's got some nice roasty, toasty notes to it. You can smell some kind of milky notes, and I guess milk chocolate is maybe about 40–50% cocoa, but at the same time to this one you've got some nice high cocoa notes, like 80–90% as well, so that's really kind of interesting, to be honest with you. Definitely a little bit of brown sugar in there. You can pick up a nice kind of toasty caramel to this one. It's not treacle or molasses or anything, I don't think. I think it is more of a toasty kind of sweet caramel there. The brown sugars at the front of the nose come out really quite sweetly. Maybe there's a little touch of a kind of nutty quality to this one, a sort of undertone. But yeah, no real licorice or anything like that. This one is mainly quite sweet brown sugars and a good level of chocolate in there. This is definitely quite a sweet smelling Imperial Stout, this one, and I really like how all of it goes together. So that's, yeah, this one, the aroma gets a big thumbs up for me, this one. Could sit and smell this all day. On the hoppy side of things, I would say that this beer, it has a little bit of an earthiness to it, but it's not overly roasty and toasty, if that makes sense. This, as I say, this whole beer leans towards the sweet end of the spectrum. There is a little bit of a floral, grassy kind of thing in there. The floral character is a little bit minimum. It is more along the lines of a kind of grassy note that's coming out of this beer. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, it's actually quite subtle, to be honest with you. It's quite subdued, if that makes sense. You can pick up a little bit of a kind of figgy note to it. Maybe there's a little bit of blueberry and blackberry and things in there too, but the fruity side of this beer is very kind of reserved, really. It's this beer, in fairness, for an Imperial Stout, it's got a lovely big kind of chocolatey and brown sugary sweetness to it, but the fruity side is very reserved and the hoppy side is very reserved as well. So just bear that in mind with this one. It's really nice how the whole aroma goes together here, and it's definitely all about just how all these different notes kind of fit in with each other. So bear that in mind. Take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma before you taste the beer. But let's have a look at this one then and see how we get on. This one is the number, was it 126? Yeah, 126, the Eternal Darkness Imperial Stout at 11% ABV from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg here in Sweden, part of their core range. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål. Yeah, that's really pretty nice actually. You know, it's a very, very solid Imperial Stout, this one. If you like your Imperial Stouts to be nice and sweet, it really is pretty good. I mean, if I compare this to, for example, the Would I Lie to You, that I think is probably the best high alcohol beer that I've had from these guys so far. This one isn't too far off that. I mean, with the barrel aging and things like that, and with a barley wine, I think you are going to get a little bit more complexity out of it in terms of different fruits and things like that. This is one of these beers where it's not overly complex, it doesn't do anything really surprising with the style, but it's just absolutely solid, and you know, you can't fault it for that at all. This is just another very, very nice beer from Beerbliotek, and I'm not surprised. This is why I always like going to this brewery, because you know you're going to get something very, very good, and you will get some things that just blow you away every so often, such as the Would I Lie to You. That was probably, I think that probably is the best beer that I've had from these guys so far. So it does make me hold them to very high standards. But if you like a nice kind of sweet, smooth Imperial Stout, this one certainly is going to tick the boxes for you. This one gets a big thumbs up from me. I do like this. So yeah, let's just try and break the flavour of this beer down a little bit then. So in the middle of your palate, you can feel a nice kind of smooth sort of, you definitely can feel a nice sort of smooth woody quality. That just blankets the middle of your palate actually, and the further you go into the aftertaste, it evolves a little bit and you start to get some of the roasty black malt just pushing its way out. There's a nice kind of, there's definitely a nice sort of chocolatey note to this beer as well, but it's not quite as prominent as you would think going by the aroma. The aroma gives you the impression that this beer is going to be absolutely crazy in terms of its chocolatiness, but it's really not quite as chocolatey as you would think. This is more a smooth Imperial Stout. It does have a good bit of sweetness to it, but it's a lot kind of smoother and straight up that you would think. It's very well balanced actually, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's probably pretty, you know, pretty highly regarded actually. Yeah, the more that you drink of it, you will find that I was saying the chocolatey notes don't come out as much as you would think. The more you drink of it, you will get just a little slight touch. To me, there is a bit of a bready note to this one, and it is a bit like a well-fired bread crust, but it's quite thin. It's not kind of dominating the flavour of the beer, if you like. So as I say, you've got a bit of woodiness, you've got a little bit of a kind of roasty, toasty bread crust in there. And on top of that, that's when you start to get the kind of chocolatey notes, and the further into the aftertaste you'll feel those just dry out, and that's when you get the roasty black malts. But more towards the centre of the palate, you've got quite a high percentage cocoa chocolate in there. I would say like 80–90%. The milky chocolate notes that I was picking up in the aroma, they don't come out so much in the flavour, to be honest. It is more of a kind of darker chocolatey note that this beer has, and it's almost a little bit charred actually in terms of the chocolate flavours as well. In the very centre of your palate you can pick out a little bit of brown sugar, but nowhere near as much again as I was thinking from the aroma. There's just a little bit of that, and that'll be the alcohol. I mean, at 11% ABV, this beer is a bit of a beast actually, but it really covers its alcohol very well. That's one of the things you have to say about this. This is a very, very smooth beer, and I'm pretty sure I said the same actually about the Would I Lie to You, I'm sure that beer was up around the kind of 12% mark, so it was even heavier than this. But Beerbliotek seem to have a knack of getting very smooth and easy drinking high alcohol beers, and that's difficult to do actually. You know, as a home brewer, that's always one of the first big challenges when you want to brew your first Imperial Stout and things like that, or do a good Imperial Stout, I guess I should say. That's one of the things you really need to watch for, because it is quite difficult to master. I don't know if this will have been double mashed or something like that, but it is a very nice nice beer, this one. The smoothness of it is very good. But yeah, like I was saying, a little bit of a kind of brown sugary note in the middle of the palate. It's quite, that brown sugary note, it does lean towards the sweet caramel end of things. But then as your palate dries out, you'll notice that it starts to become more like a kind of caramel wafer, sort of caramelly biscuity kind of thing, which is really interesting. There's a lot, this is one of these beers where it starts off very straight up, and a lot of the complexities that you get from it, they start to come out just as you progress into the aftertaste actually. It's a flavour that evolves on the palate, if you can be, you know, if you can say that sort of thing. I really like how this beer kind of goes about its business actually. If you go to the centre of your palate and then just move forward, you may well pick up a little bit of nuttiness there. That's a very kind of subtle undertone, but to me, and the sort of undertones that this beer has are a little bit more kind of woody and things like that. But compared to what you would think from the aroma, I would have thought this would be a very big sweet Imperial Stout, but it's actually, it does have a nice little bit of roasty toastiness. It's got a little bit of everything. Of course, you've got Russian Imperial Stouts, you've got sweet stouts and things like that, and this one very firmly plants its flag in the middle actually, and I do like that about this beer. That's one of the things that gives it a big thumbs up from me actually. On the hoppy side of things then, back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of you know, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. As you come further forward, you can feel that earthiness just smooth out a little bit, and as you reach the front corners of the palate, there's a wee tint of floral aromaticity there. I don't know, would they have used like Bramling's Cross or Challenger or something in this? Pardon me, it almost, or maybe Summit could be the other one. I don't think there's Williamette in here. Williamette can be quite a popular hop, for example, for Imperial Stouts and for like black IPAs and things like that, but I think this one, the earthiness isn't quite harsh enough if you like to be an English hop. I'm pretty sure this is an American hopped beer. It could be Australian or New Zealand, right enough. Of course, two of the guys, one's Australian, one's New Zealand. But I'm pretty sure this is a New World hop rather than an Old World hop that's in here. But yeah, the hops are kind of what you would expect. There's not really a great deal of bitterness coming out of the hops either, and then as you go round the front curve of the palate, it's just very light and very grassy actually, but you can really feel the edge of your tongue drying out from this one a little bit, which is kind of interesting, and some of the, as I say, the roasty black malts and the woodiness start to push their way through a little bit more actually. So yeah, as I was saying, a lot of these flavours push their way out in the aftertaste. The last thing we need to talk about then is the fruity side of this beer. So when you first take this one in, it does have a little teeny bit of sharpness to it, which is nice. So yeah, you'll get a little bit of a, it's not quite sharp enough to be raisins, I think. I think it's more of a kind of juicy, plummy quality. You'll get that in the beginning. And it's not cherries either. It doesn't quite taste like cherries, but you get a little bit of a plummy quality to this beer in the beginning. Then the further you go into the aftertaste, as the beer starts to dry out, the flavours start to evolve a little bit more, and you'll get a little bit of that figgy kind of quality. And I really think this one leans, there is a little bit of fig there, but I think it leans more towards the blackberry, blackcurrant side of things, which is really quite nice actually. So this beer has a hell of a lot going on in the aftertaste. Like I say, the roasty black malts, the woodiness, some of the chocolatey notes, the more charred end of the chocolate kind of comes out, a bit of the earthiness, and then you've got these nice juicy qualities from the fruit in there as well. This is one of these beers that is just really well balanced. There's once your palate adjusts to this, you can really appreciate everything that's going on in it. And if you know what this brewery are like, they do always, their beers are sufficiently complex. They've got a good level of complexity to them, but they just balance very, very well, actually. I think that's one of the really good traits, actually, about Beerbliotek. So, yeah, if that sounds like it hits the spot for you, I'm sure you will enjoy their beers. Definitely one of the Swedish craft breweries that you want to check out. One of my personal favourites, and this is the main reason for it. But yeah, a lovely Imperial Stout, this one. If we talk about it on the Imperial Stout scale, I'd say that this one, you've got the sweet beers on one end, the sweet Imperial Stouts on one end, and the more roasty toasty things on the other, and the coffee stouts is another kind of thing too, but there's no coffee presence to this. This one firmly plants its flag in the middle. You've got a nice degree of sweetness to it, but it really starts to lean more towards that roasty toasty end the further you go into the aftertaste. So in terms of the mouthfeel of this beer then, I would say, yeah, I'd say it's at the bottom end of full-bodied. It's not the heaviest and thickest Imperial Stout you're going to come across, but it does have enough body and things in it to keep you, to let you know, yes, this is an Imperial Stout. Carbonation is pretty damn smooth in this one. The mouthfeel, interestingly, is... It does have a good bit of an oily character to it, but I find it's actually quite wet at the same time, which is a little bit unusual for an Imperial Stout. So it does feel a little bit lighter, and that's why I'm saying it's not the thickest one that you are going to come across. Bitterness in this one, a mixture of that's coming from both the hops and from the malt base in this. It gets a little bit drier the further you go into the aftertaste. I think we're still only talking maybe about 50 IBUs in this one. It's not pushing higher than that, I don't think. Maybe 60. Maybe, I think 60 is the absolute maximum, I would say, for this. I'm not quite sure, but I think 60 would be the absolute maximum, but I'm leaning more towards it being around 50 IBUs. The malt base has a good balance between the roastiness and the smoothness, and also the kind of sweeter aspects, but the sweetness takes a bit of a back seat the further you go into the beer, and it's got a little bit of a nice kind of juicy, fruity quality to it as well. The fruits are a little touch oily as well, which is kind of interesting. But overall, it's a really, really solid Imperial Stout, this one. I wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. And it's actually not far off the Would I Lie to You, which is probably the best beer that I've had from Beerbliotek so far. So that's a good thing, particularly when this is one of their older beers, of course. It's maybe not going to be quite as good as some of the new ones, but it certainly pushes it damn close, in my opinion. My first Imperial Stout that I've had from Beerbliotek. So hopefully they've got some interesting ones coming out in the future. They're always releasing new stuff, and the only downside to this brewery, of course, is that because of the nationalised system, the Systembolaget, you can't always get all of their beers. The Scotch Ale is the one that I'm setting my sights on for my next Beerbliotek review. But I hope you've enjoyed this one nonetheless. It's been really cool to review one of their core range beers for a change, and to have my first Imperial Stout from Beerbliotek. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Beerbliotek as well. And do make sure you check out this brewery. Really just pretty solid, and if you find yourself in Gothenburg, go and check out their tap room. Hopefully I can get up there and film a little out and about review for you at some point soon as well. But let's leave it at that. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Eternal Darkness Imperial Stout at 11% ABV from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg here in Sweden. Slanja, skål, cheers.